What if I told you that some of Britain's most beloved pubs are hiding secrets that could ruin your evening? Or worse. From ancient inns with dangerous structural problems to chain establishments serving microwaved meals at premium prices, there are 15 types of pubs you need to steer clear of. But don't worry, I'll also reveal the 5 you can trust. Some of these will genuinely surprise you. You know the one, that centuries-old village pub that's just been modernised with grey laminate flooring, Edison bulb lighting, and all the original features ripped out and replaced with flat-pack furniture from a commercial supplier. What was once a proper community, local with character and history, has been transformed into a soulless box that could be anywhere in Britain. The new owners have removed the dartboard, the fruit machine's gone, and they've replaced the cosy snug with open-plan dining space. These pubs have lost everything that made them special in the first place. The regulars have stopped coming because it doesn't feel like their pub anymore, and the food has shifted from honest pub grub to small plates that cost a fortune and leave you hungry. The real tragedy is that once these original features are gone, the old fireplaces, the timber beams, the worn bar top with decades of character, they're gone forever. If your local has just undergone a sympathetic refurbishment, give it a few visits before you judge. But if the heart's been ripped out, it's time to find a new local. Now, I'm not saying all Wetherspoons are terrible. They serve a purpose and the prices are reasonable for what you get. But if you value your eardrums, your personal space, and your ability to have a conversation, avoid them like the plague on Friday and Saturday evenings. These establishments transform from quiet daytime spots into absolute chaos after 7 p.m. on weekends. You'll be packed in like sardines with stag do's, hen parties, and teenagers on their first night out, all shouting over each other while the music blares from speakers that haven't been adjusted since 2003. The carpets become sticky with spilled drinks. The toilets turn into disaster zones, and good luck getting served at the bar in under 20 minutes. If you fancy a Wetherspoon's breakfast or a quiet Tuesday afternoon pint, they're perfectly fine. But weekend evenings, you'd have a more relaxing time in a motorway service station during a bank holiday exodus. These places are particularly insulting. A country pub that's been taken over by someone who thinks they're running a Michelin-starred establishment in Mayfair. You'll find them in lovely rural locations, often in beautiful old buildings. But the moment you look at the menu, your heart sinks. £17 for fish and chips, £14 for a ploughman's, and £22 for a Sunday roast that arrives on a slate with 3 vegetables you've never heard of. The portions are minuscule, presented like modern art, and the staff have been trained to describe every dish like they're narrating a David Attenborough documentary. The locals have been priced out entirely, and the place is full of second homeowners and tourists who don't know any better. There's nothing wrong with good food, but when you're charging restaurant prices in a building that still has the word "inn" on the sign, you've lost the plot. A proper pub should feed you well without requiring a small mortgage. If you're choosing a pub based on its television appearance, you need to understand something important. The pubs that end up on programmes like Kitchen Nightmares or Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares aren't selected because they're doing well. They're chosen because they're absolute disasters, often with terrible food hygiene, incompetent management, and kitchens that would horrify environmental health officers. Yes, Gordon Ramsay might have sorted them out temporarily for the cameras, but the statistics on these places are grim. Most return to their old ways within months, and many close within a year of filming. If a pub's main selling point is that a celebrity chef once shouted at the owners on national television, that tells you everything you need to know about the quality of the operation. The ones that genuinely turn things around don't need to advertise their troubled past. Find a pub with a solid reputation that's been quietly serving good food for years, not one that needed a TV intervention to function properly. Britain is full of gorgeous old coaching inns with centuries of history, and sadly, many have been bought by budget hotel chains and stripped of everything that made them special. These places still trade on their historical credentials, established 1642, on the sign outside, But inside it's been gutted and converted into identical hotel rooms, with the pub reduced to an afterthought. The restaurant serves reheated meals from a central kitchen somewhere in the Midlands. The bar staff are disinterested, hotel reception workers doing double duty, and the atmosphere is about as welcoming as a Premier Inn car park. You'll find these particularly along major coaching routes and in market towns. The building might be 400 years old, but everything inside is from 2015 and looks like it was ordered from the same catalogue as every other budget hotel in Britain. If you want authentic history, find a coaching inn that's still independently run and actually cares about its heritage. If you're finding this useful and want to avoid wasting money on terrible pubs while discovering the gems, hit that subscribe button now. We've got loads more essential British advice coming your way, and you won't want to miss it. Right, let's continue with the pubs you need to avoid. This should be obvious, but you'd be amazed how many people ignore the food hygiene ratings displayed on pub doors or available online through the Food Standards Agency. If a pub has a 1-star or 0-star rating, that means environmental health officers have found major problems with food safety, cleanliness, or management of food hygiene during their inspection. We're not talking about a bit of dust in the corner. These ratings mean serious issues like inadequate refrigeration, cross-contamination risks, pest problems, or staff who don't follow basic hygiene practices. Some people think a bit of dirt never hurt anyone, or that country pubs are supposed to be rustic, but there's a massive difference between character and filth. The Food Standards Agency ratings are public for a reason, and inspectors are trained professionals who know what they're looking at. If a pub can't manage a minimum 3-star rating, they shouldn't be serving food to the public. Check the rating before you order, and if it's poor, walk straight back out. There are exceptions to every rule, but as a general principle, avoid pubs directly on the seafront in popular seaside towns. These establishments know they have a captive audience of tourists and day trippers who will never return, so there's absolutely no incentive to provide quality food, decent service, or reasonable prices. You'll pay premium rates for the view while eating frozen scampi that's been microwaved and served with chips that taste like cardboard. The staff are often seasonal workers who'll be gone in 3 months. The beer selection is limited to mass-market lagers, and the whole operation exists purely to extract maximum money from people who are stuck there for an afternoon. The pubs locals actually use are always 1 or 2 streets back from the seafront, the ones without the view, without the touristy atmosphere, but with proper food, fair prices, and staff who expect to see you again. If you're visiting a coastal town, ask a local where they drink. It won't have a sea view, but you'll actually enjoy your visit. Britain has more genuinely historic pubs than anywhere else in the world, and many have fascinating stories attached to them. But when a pub's entire identity revolves around being haunted, and the food, drink and service are all afterthoughts, you're in trouble. These places are easy to spot. Every surface is covered in most haunted merchandise. The staff are trained to tell ghost stories rather than pour a decent pint, and they charge extra for ghost tours of the building. The quality of everything else is usually dreadful because management knows people are coming for the supernatural gimmick, not for a good pub experience. You'll find these particularly in historic cities and tourist areas, pubs claiming to be the most haunted in Britain, with resident ghosts that apparently appear nightly despite never showing up on anyone's photographs. If a pub needs to rely on ghost stories to bring people through the door, it tells you everything about the standard of the actual pub. Find somewhere that's proud of its history but focused on serving good beer and food. The ghosts are a bonus, not the business model. There's nothing wrong with watching football in the pub, it's a British tradition. But avoid pubs that have become nothing more than sports viewing venues with 30 screens showing every imaginable sporting event simultaneously. These places are less pubs and more like betting shops with a bar licence, where the entire atmosphere revolves around Sky Sports subscriptions and accumulator bets. The noise is overwhelming with commentary blaring from multiple screens. The clientele is there for the sport, rather than the company, and if you're not interested in whatever match is on, you might as well not exist. The food is universally awful, usually chicken wings and loaded fries that arrive swimming in grease. and the beer selection is limited to whatever promotes most aggressively during football season. A good pub can show the big matches without transforming into a sports bar. If you walk in and can't hold a conversation because of the noise, or every single wall is covered in screens, you're not in a pub anymore. You're in a shrine to televised sports that happens to sell alcohol. This is a particularly frustrating category. The quintessential village pub that's been taken over by a couple from London who've decided to escape the rat race and run a country pub with absolutely no experience in hospitality. They watched one too many episodes of Escape to the Country and thought it looked romantic, but they have no idea what they're doing and no respect for what a village pub actually means to a community. These landlords treat the pub as their personal hobby rather than a business, keeping bizarre opening hours that suit their lifestyle, closing whenever they fancy a holiday and showing visible irritation when actual locals want to use their local. The prices skyrocket because they're trying to attract weekend visitors from nearby towns rather than serve the village, and traditional pub activities like darts, dominoes or quiz nights are abandoned in favour of supper clubs and wine tasting evenings that nobody local can afford or wants. Within 2 years, the place either closes completely or gets taken over by someone who actually understands the pub trade. If you hear the phrase, "We're bringing our vision to the village," run a mile. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our upcoming video on the best traditional British pubs that are still thriving. You'll want to see that. Right, back to the pubs that should be on your permanent avoid list. You know exactly the ones I'm talking about. The identical branded establishments you'll find at every major motorway junction, designed to capture travellers who don't know the area. Whether it's a Harvester, Beefeater, or Brewer's Fare, these places represent everything that's wrong with corporate pub culture. The menu is identical from Cornwall to Scotland, the food arrives from central distribution and is reheated on site, and the staff are following corporate scripts rather than actually engaging with customers. Everything is designed to be inoffensive and mediocre. The decor is bland, the atmosphere is sterile, and you could be in any town in Britain because they're all exactly the same. The beer selection is limited to mass market brands, the prices are inflated because of the captive motorway audience, and the whole experience is about as memorable as a service station toilet break. If you're travelling and need food, it's worth driving an extra 10 minutes to find an actual independent pub where someone cares about what they're serving. These chain establishments exist purely for convenience, not quality, and you'll regret choosing convenience every single time. These places have become insufferable. Traditional pubs that have been converted into boutique accommodations where the rooms cost more than a decent hotel in central London. They market themselves as destination dining establishments, but what they really are is pretentious, overpriced, and completely disconnected from what a pub should be. The bar area becomes an afterthought for hotel guests, locals are made to feel unwelcome, and everything is designed around the accommodation rather than the pub. You'll find tiny tasting portions at restaurant prices, a wine list longer than the beer selection, and staff who've been trained in hospitality management courses rather than traditional pub work. The worst part is that these establishments often occupy beautiful historic buildings in lovely locations, but they're completely inaccessible to normal people who just want a decent pint and a meal. If the pub's website dedicates more space to room amenities than to the bar menu, and if they use phrases like curated interiors or artisanal experience, you're not welcome there unless you're prepared to spend a week's wages on an overnight stay. This phenomenon has become ridiculous. Pubs that have become so fashionable for Sunday lunch that you need to book months in advance, and when you finally get a table, the experience is more stressful than enjoyable. These places have usually been featured in some Sunday supplement or food blog, and suddenly they're treating Sunday roasts like they're serving at a Michelin-starred restaurant rather than a traditional pub. You'll be given a strict 2-hour time slot, rushed through your meal because there's another sitting waiting, and charge premium prices for what's essentially the same roast dinner you could get at dozens of other pubs without the hassle. The quality often doesn't justify the hype. It's good, certainly, but is it worth planning your entire weekend around 3 months in advance? The best Sunday roasts I've had have been at pubs you can walk into without booking, where the focus is on feeding people well rather than creating an exclusive dining experience. If a pub can't accommodate walk-ins on a Sunday, they've lost the plot about what pub culture actually means. This is a modern plague. Pubs that have been discovered by Instagram influencers and have become more concerned with being photogenic than actually functioning as proper pubs. Everything is designed for the photographs rather than the experience. Unnecessary flowers everywhere, food served on bizarre surfaces like roof tiles and wooden boards, and lighting optimised for phone cameras rather than creating atmosphere. These pubs are packed with people who spend more time photographing their meals than eating them. The staff are chosen for their appearance rather than their ability to pull a pint, and the whole operation feels more like a theatre set than a pub. The food looks spectacular in photographs but tastes mediocre. The prices are inflated because they know people will pay for the Instagram content, and the atmosphere is completely artificial. Real pubs don't need influencers to promote them. They succeed through word of mouth from satisfied customers who actually care about quality. If the pub's Instagram has more followers than its actual customer base, and if the menu includes phrases like Instagram worthy or Insta famous, you're in the wrong place. This is the most painful category of all: traditional working men's clubs and honest local boozers that have been discovered and transformed into craft beer establishments, serving tiny portions at astronomical prices. What was once a proper community pub where working people could afford a pint has become a hipster paradise where everything is artisanal, local, and completely unaffordable for the people who used to drink there. The original regulars have been priced out and replaced by young professionals who think they're supporting local businesses while actually destroying them. The beer selection shifts from reasonably priced nationals to obscure craft options at 3 times the price. The furniture is replaced with reclaimed industrial pieces that are deliberately uncomfortable. And traditional pub snacks are replaced with elevated bar food like kimchi Scotch eggs and truffle chips. The worst part is that these places are often in working class areas that are being gentrified, and the transformation of the local pub is both a symptom and an accelerator of the wider community changes. If your old local has started serving deconstructed pork pies and the cheapest pint is over £7, it's not your local anymore. It's a lifestyle destination for people who can afford to treat pubs as entertainment rather than community spaces. Right, before we get to the 5 pubs you can trust, hit subscribe so you don't miss our next video on Britain's best kept pub secrets. You'll definitely want to see that. Now, let's finish with the good news, the 5 types of pubs that are still worth your time. These are the pubs that have been in the same family for 20, 30, even 40 years, where the landlord knows every regular by name and the community still genuinely uses it as their local. You'll recognise them immediately, worn but clean, unpretentious, with locals who've been drinking there longer than you've been alive. The beer is kept properly, the food is honest pub grub without any nonsense, and the prices are fair because they're not trying to maximise profit from each customer, but rather keep a loyal community coming back. These pubs survive on reputation and relationships rather than gimmicks and marketing. When the campaign for Real Ale gives a pub an award, they're not mucking about. These establishments have been thoroughly assessed for beer quality, atmosphere, value, and service. Camera award-winning pubs take beer seriously, keep their cellar properly, and care about what they're serving. They're often independent establishments run by people who are genuinely passionate about proper beer rather than corporate managers following head office instructions. The food is usually good to excellent, the atmosphere is welcoming, and you're guaranteed a properly kept pint. When a village comes together to save their local by buying it collectively, you know that pub means something important to people. Community-owned pubs are increasingly common as traditional ownership models fail, and they're often the best examples of what pubs should be. They're run for the community rather than profit. They involve local people in decision-making, and they provide a genuine service rather than just extracting money from customers. These pubs host community events, support local suppliers, and maintain the social fabric of village life. Every market town has at least one proper pub that's survived everything. Recessions, changing fashions, chain competition. By simply being consistently good. These are often the pubs you'd walk past without a second glance, but locals know they're reliable. The decor hasn't been updated since the 1980s, but it's spotlessly clean. The menu hasn't changed in 20 years, but everything is done properly. The beer range is traditional, rather than exciting, but it's kept perfectly. These pubs succeed through being dependable rather than fashionable. The safest bet of all is the country pub that's slightly off the beaten track, has excellent food hygiene standards, and where you'll find mostly locals, rather than tourists. These establishments have succeeded by serving their community well, good food at fair prices, well-kept beer, and genuine hospitality. They're not trying to be gastropubs or boutique hotels, they're just doing the basics excellently. You'll recognise them by the cars parked outside, with local registrations, the mix of ages in the clientele, and the comfortable, lived-in atmosphere that comes from being a genuine community hub rather than a business chasing trends. From overpriced gastropubs to Instagram bait tourist traps, we've covered the 15 types of pubs you should avoid at all costs, plus the 5 you can still trust. The difference between them comes down to authenticity, community, and respect for what a proper British pub should be. If this has helped you navigate Britain's pub scene, subscribe now and check out the next video on screen about Britain's best traditional pub foods that are disappearing from menus.